Hello, everyone. I'm Charlie, and welcome back to another DraftKings DFS Slate breakdown. Wednesday Premier League this time after just having that Tuesday slate. Now we got a four-gamer on our hands, headlined by that juicy Tottenham Man City game. Of course, they're leaving out the late game again, which is Liverpool Newcastle, which I will also be covering in the FSI Discord that can be accessed through the website linked below. But on this video, we are just focusing on this classic slate. Man United are the biggest favorites at minus 189, which you do not see often for a Man United that is really in a downward spiral. But these current bottom three M teams are almost like the worst kind of relegation class we've ever gotten. I saw some stat they're on track to literally be the worst bottom three of all time in terms of accumulated points. So it's actually a pretty good bounce back spot for Man United. In terms of projected lineups and set pieces for Brentford, it should be AD, Amsgaard, and Mbeumo split. For Everton, it should be Harrison and I want to say Garner splitting. There's a chance that Lindstrom splits as well. They had 7 corners last game. They were all taken by Harrison. However, the caveat to that is they were all on one side of the field. So you can't, it's not really a true monopoly despite him having that amount of corners, or at least it's hard to tell if it is or not. Man United and Ipswich. Interesting, they have Ericsson projected, has not played in a while, hasn't even come off the bench lately. He really makes sets muddy, I'd say. Instead of just like a pure Bruno monopoly, there's a chance that he ends up splitting or that he ends up even having a larger share. So just no real certainty there. My guess is Bruno will have something though, just because he is just this whole team basically. Everything kind of goes through him. And of course, Ericsson probably gets subbed is the other thing. So even if he starts having like a bigger amount or a larger amount of sets, it won't be for the whole game. And Bruno will have something at some point, worst case scenario. Then for Ipswich, it should be Leif Davis splitting with Smodix maybe. Hutchinson, I know, took a corner last game too. Taylor's taken a little bit in the past. I wouldn't even be surprised if Philogene took some. But Leif Davis is a guy who is the certainty there, and then just a little bit of uncertainty over what they do past him. Forest and Arsenal should be mostly Elanga. Anderson also splits somewhat. Elanga does have one side that he takes everything on, and then it'll be like a double righty split a little bit in terms of that other side of the field for corner kicks. Arsenal should be Nwaneri and Rice splitting. Nwaneri came off with a knock last game, but apparently it was just a cramp. So he should be good to go. However, if he's not, Odegaard should be the guy to end up having or picking up the slack there for set pieces. Tottenham and Man City should be Son on one side and then Kulusevski and Poro kind of splitting duties on the other. And for City, it should be a Foden and Marmoush split. It was interesting that Marmoush ended up having set pieces over Kevin De Bruyne last time. I think that's kind of the last straw of De Bruyne being phased out of this team. I'd be surprised if he gets another start in a meaningful game for the rest of the year. Frankly, I think he's gone in the summer to maybe San Diego, maybe Saudi Arabia. But it just means Marmoush is just an even better play here as a guy who just looks like he has guaranteed sets. Looks like I said, just because Pep is not afraid to change. He might give a Foden monopoly this game, or Savinho could end up taking something. But for now, I'm assuming it'll be just a Foden and Marmoush split like it was against Liverpool. All right, pricing. A lot of guys who are injured or questionable in this whole kind of front page here of forwards. Saka's injured for sure. Haaland is questionable. We'll see if he starts. They don't think he does for FootMob, but never know. We'll see. If he does start, I still think 11K is just a little bit pricey. I don't mind that in GBP though. Trossard is pricey for sure for me. Son, I don't mind just because this game could end up being pretty open, and he's just cheaper than Haaland with a higher floor. So I like that. Elanga feels a little pricey to me as well against a tough match against Arsenal. Garnacho 7,800. This is kind of the first forward that I'm really considering in cash. Like there's Son, but I think Garnacho's in the better spot just because they're playing Ipswich here. And United just have so many injuries that Garnacho should be pretty safe for minutes, especially after getting rested over the weekend against Everton. Only played 28 minutes and was super solid in that time when he came on too. So I like Garnacho a lot here. Savino, I don't mind 7,400. Chris Wood, maybe okay GPP play. Doku, I'm kind of whatever on him. Marmouche. This is my favorite forward play on the slate. Give me his set pieces, give me his upsides. He's kind of like the best of both worlds for both upside and floor, as well as being in a matchup that should offer a ton of goals and being pretty cheap for that. Like this is a fantastic play for me. I know he has not gone 90 yet, but I feel like Man City just have zero trust in De Bruyne right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if they leave him on the bench, let Marmouche play 90, especially if Holland isn't fit or isn't in the squad. That's something to watch out for. But even if he isn't, or even if he is, I'm sorry. Like I'm getting Marmouche here. Like this is my favorite play on the slate for sure. Just it's 6K. It's just crazy for him. Thursday. If there was a time for one of these donkey Man United strikers to come good, that's Hoyland, that's Xerxes. Let's just match up against Ipswich. They're like plus 150 or something goal scoring odds. I don't think you're going to see them that low again all season. It just feels like a come good for whoever starts up top here. Like surely they have to score at some point, and this is the matchup for it. So I could see getting to a Hoyland or a Xerxes depending on who starts. I don't think it's that crazy. I might even have just one of these guys on the thumbnail just because it'd be kind of funny. But like I said, like if there was a time for one of them to come good, it's now. Hell, he's been a solid player. I know he wasn't great against Ipswich, but we'll just call that poor variance. Tottenham had 4 goals and he's happened just to not get in on them. Got subbed early, probably because the game was already over at that point. So Matthews Tell, I don't mind at all. That's probably a safer option than your Man United forwards. And then anyone else down here? Philogene, I could get behind as just a cheap forward option. But I think you're living. Oh no, there's one other guy I want to talk about. Jack Harrison. This is your set piece forward, and this is completely viable route as well if you want to kind of forego going your goal dependent forwards like your Tell, your Hoyland, your Xerxes. If you it just all these guys, you just have to think about who you're pairing with Marmouche in cash. So it's just kind of what you want from that position, whether that be floor for Harrison, whether that be a little bit more upside from your Xerxes or your Hoylands or your Tells or your Marmouche, who is kind of better for floor and upside, but just a little bit more expensive. So those are kind of like the group of guys I'm considering in cash or forward. Of course, in GPP, I'll have all in just an array of these guys, and it doesn't matter as, or you can get a lot more different, I should say. Midfielders. Mbeumo at 11K feels a little bit pricey. I think most people, including myself, will be starting their cash builds around Bruno Fernandes. So like that's where I'd go, at least for my first midfield slot. There probably is ways to go both of them. Just you're left with 4,700 per position. Say throw a Marmouche in there, you're left with 4K a slot, which is doable. It'd just be a little bit of a tighter fit. So I don't think Mbeumo is much of a lock as Bruno for sure. And if you can get to them, both of them together, fine. But I'd make sure to get to Bruno in cash over Mbeumo. If you're trying to decide between one or the other, De Bruyne, I just think there's zero chance he's even going to start, so I'm not going to worry about him. Wisa, I like as a GPP play. He's just a little bit pricey for cash. And like I said, I'd go Bruno over all these guys. And then I'd go Mbeumo before Wisa too. Damsgaard. This is a little bit pricey for me. I've been a Damsgaard truther almost every game, but at 8,600, I feel like he's finally kind of pushed me over the edge where I just can't get there in cash at least. I may have a share in GPP, but when you're starting with Bruno in most of your builds, like I plan to do, there's just not a ton of leeway for a double pay up for midfield. And when I'm doing that, there's just guys I'd rather get to over Damsgaard at price. Noneri. I was all in on him last week, and he just was not great against West Ham. Arsenal just looked bad in general. I'm probably going back to the well in Forest or against Forest in GPP. In cash, I think it's a tough sell, like I said, because you're going Bruno and you only have so much salary left to go. But he'd be a tempting option for sure. Now, Foden at 6,500 just feels insane to me. I know he's had like no upside last like 3 games, but even then, he's got a solid floor. And this is the cheapest we've seen him all year by like 3K. Against a very leaky Tottenham defense, typically, this is probably my favorite guy to go in the next mid position after you're starting with Bruno. But there is alternatives like a Kulusevski, like an Odegaard, who, if there's no one there, like if he's just not fit or they just end up rotating him out, him or Foden, I think, is a real tough 50-50 because they have both similar roles, set pieces against pretty favorable matchups. That becomes a pretty tough decision. So there is alternatives to a Foden. He's not a lock or anything, but at 6,500, that is so, so tempting to me. Declan Rice, this is another Foden alternative. Just probably not the upside there, but I will be having shares of that at 5,900 just because once again, this is just a cheap spot for him. Like he's been this cheap a couple of times, but very rarely. And like I think Forest is a pretty good matchup for Arsenal just because Forest are going to be a counter-attacking team. They're going to sit back. Arsenal should get plenty of set pieces, which really bodes well for your Rice and your Odegaard or Moneri, depending on who starts. Grealish is not bad, 5,800 though. Marino's not bad for an upside play if they start him at striker, which he was not projected to do so. But if he does, like I like that in GPP. Ericsson at 5,400, I could see myself getting there, but you worry about his minutes, you worry about what his set piece role is. I could see a pretty interesting maybe GPP build where you maybe go Ericsson, fade Bruno. Hope Ericsson ends up having monopoly there. That could be a pretty interesting game theory that you could do for a GPP build. I could definitely see myself doing that in a build or two. Even pairing them both together, hope Bruno gets there in upside, hope Ericsson gets there in floor. Like that could be a viable route as well. Lindstrom, there's no James Garner I'd be tempted by. Otherwise, I just feel like he's just a limited minute upside ceiling play, and he has not gotten a goal contribution all year. So it'd be very much a chasing play, I think, of just hoping he finally does something. So I'm not too interested in that, especially with some of these other midfielders on the slate. Other guys I'm thinking about in terms of dumpster diving, like a Garner, I could see myself getting to if needing the salary. Ducore for GPP has been pretty good as like this pseudo striker that they tend to play him at right now, like this number 10 position. I could see myself getting there as well, but once again, more of a GPP play. And yeah, those are the mids. Like this mid range, I think, is really where you're going to look here. After going Bruno, of course. Defenders. Poro, probably just go. Like it's pretty easy to afford him because of that stack mid range that I keep talking about. So I'm most likely starting most of my builds with him and playing him in cash too. However, if not doing that, there is Dorgu who has been super exciting. Like I've loved what I'm seeing from him. He's been very solid for floor, and this is the matchup. So I could see going him over Poro, maybe even going both. Dalot, I think is a little bit overpriced considering he doesn't quite have that same floor as those other two guys, as well as just the upside has not really been there either. So I'm not as interested in Dalot. Other guys, Spence I've liked, but he feels a little bit pricey as well. And I think you're really chasing some upside there that I don't know is sustainable. Like this is the most he's ever been by like double as much as he's been priced lately. Ashley Young could be a sneaky play if he ends up something like on the wing or something. He's a super crossing fullback. I know he's old, but he's been solid typically when he plays. Leaf Davis at 4K, I can get behind. I'm not overly scared of Man United, despite Ipswich being terrible. Like they were terrible against Tottenham, and he had a 15 points. Like a real resurgence from like old school Leaf Davis that we used to have, where he dropped 10 plus every game. So like I don't think it's a bad idea to try to chase that. But he looked a lot better last game, and Man United aren't going to like mega dominate Ipswich despite the odds. Like Ipswich tend to go for it and accept losing 3-4 to 0, 4-1. And because of that, Leaf Davis still offers a decent floor to him. So I could get there for sure. Leaf Davis at 4K. Other guys though, like a Timber, I don't mind. A Calafiori, Udoji, Connor Townsend if he starts instead of Leaf Davis. Rika Lewis at 3,200 isn't bad. So there's some pretty decent punt defenders here as well. Alex Moreno if he starts at 3K would be kind of tempting. Pinnock, go for like a pair with a Damsgaard or an Emblemo for a goal off of a set piece. Saliba 2,800 doesn't seem bad either. So there's definitely some pretty decent punts down here. But like I said, I'm prioritizing Pora where possible. Goalkeeper, as always, it is a complete crapshoot. I have zero clue what ended up being the highest goal scoring goalkeeper on this Tuesday slate. I'm guessing Verbruggen, I want to say. I don't even think there's even a clean sheet. So it was really just saves. Everyone's like the same priced. So it's just really just a crapshoot. Play whoever fits the rest of your build. In terms of a core, I've kind of talked about it as I go. I'm going Bruno, I'm going Marmoush, and I'm going Poro. From there, I think it's so you up to go a lot of different ways. You can try to pair Embuema with them. It's a tight squeeze, but it's definitely doable. Try to pair Dorgu, go double punt D. Also doable because of those cheap midfielders we saw, as well as some of those punt forwards. But yeah, guys, that'll be it. And I'll see you for the next one. Peace.